Sherry Tunney for the Marine Canvas Training Institute. Today we will demonstrate the making of a Bimini top with enclosure. We'll show you how to lay out the patterns to avoid waste and how to cut and sew them together quickly. Our goal, as always, is to demonstrate how to increase your profits through the efficient use of materials and labor, while at the same time turning out top quality marine products. Let's meet Don Wedge, President of the Marine Canvas Training Institute. Hi, Don.
Hi, Sherry.
Don, even though your students may master the skills that have made you a leader in the canvas fabrication industry, just how important is the material that they use?
Well, Sherry, the material that we use makes the difference whether we can turn out a quality product that we demand from our shop and that our customers have come to expect.
So where do you go to get this top quality material?
Well, Sherry, we use mainly Unitex, who is a national supplier of Sunbrella and Gore-Tex thread. The reason we use Unitex is because they have good service and are competitively priced.
Now, what about Sunbrella?
We use Sunbrella because Sunbrella is the material that's guaranteed for 5 years. It has a full color line that matches our customers' needs, and we also use Gore-Tex thread, which is guaranteed for the life of the product.
So it's safe to say that by utilizing Sunbrella material, Gore-Tex sewing thread, and the services of Unitex, you're pretty much guaranteed a top quality product.
That's right, Sherry. Now we can go back to work.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Our project this afternoon is to show you how to cut out a Bimini top with a full enclosure. Now again, in the case of trying to do this on a small scale so that you can see the whole project, we have a model here that I use in my teaching for my classes, and so we've put it up on the table so that you can see it. Now there's a few distinctive qualities about it that I want to take some time to explain to you. But what we have here is a Bimini top, which means it's a freestanding top that is supported by straps on each end, and then it has a full enclosure all the way around it out of clear vinyl. There's 100 different ways of making these depending on what kind of a boat you're putting them on. This is the way it's done one way. We're going to show you several other ways during the course of these tapes. This is a good time to show you what all these different parts are. Here's your Bimini top. This is what we call a forward curtain, and the curtain on the other side, as the one on this side, is what we call a side curtain. And on the other end is an aft curtain. Now I'm going to go down to the other end in a couple of minutes here, but I want to talk about this end for a second. In one of the previous tapes when we were talking about tops, we were talking about the fact that when you put this flap on the top, there's two different kinds of flaps used. On one end of the top we have a shaped flap, and on the other end we'll have a straight flap, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, but I want to explain why they're doing what they're doing. This so-called forward curtain on this particular top goes almost straight down. Consequently, it requires a shaped flap sewed to the front end of the top in order to accept the zipper so that this curtain can go straight up underneath and not have a whole bunch of wrinkles around these corners. Because if you do it with a straight flap, you're going to have too much material for the amount of curtain that you've got. So remember, straight curtain, shaped flap. Now I'm going to go to the other end and show you what a straight flap and an angled curtain will look like. Down on this end of the top, we still have the side curtain. We have an aft curtain which is slanted back. So in order to have this flap open up to accept this curtain coming up on an angle, we sewed a straight flap on the top, so that it would come up under there nice and smooth. That's the only two kinds of flaps that you have to worry about on your tops. But this is a perfect time to show you the difference in them. There's some other little details on this top I'll go over real quickly, but you'll notice the connection between the curtains over here on the side. We do not make flaps over our curtains. We butt the curtains to each other. Our zippers are still hidden from the outside. And we have another tape we're going to do later that's going to show you how to make a totally hidden zipper from the inside and the outside. But this is a basic Bimini top with a full enclosure. So now, girls, if we can get this moved, we can go ahead and cut out this project. Are we ready, Becky?
Ready.
Let's go for it.
Okay, what we've got in front of us here are the two panels for the Bimini top. This being the forward panel, and this is the aft panel. Both panels are face up so that you can read the writing. If that's the bow end or pointy end of the boat, this is the port side, this is the starboard side. These are the only two pieces that we are going to need for the top. Now to place these on the fabric, what I usually do first is I do this panel. If you put this here, excuse me, sandbag it down. The reason I'm laying this here is because we've got to have on this aft end, we've got to be able to pull this way to get our fitted pocket for the back. We're also going to be doing on this top a fitted flap and a straight flap. Sandbags. Okay, this end of the top gets the straight flap, so I'm going to have just enough room here so that I can get that pocket out of it. I don't need to have extra for the flap.
What it does require when you do this is 6 inches plus for the pocket and 5 inches plus for the straight flap. Have you got enough there, Beck?
I've got 9 inches here. All we need is at least 6.
Okay.
You're going to have edges on this, once again, that will require cutting with the shears, and some edges that will require cutting with the hot knife. Those being, the sides get cut with the scissors because they are going to be a bound edge in the finish, and this edge and the forward edge are going to be cut with a hot knife because they will be seen from the underneath. The cutting with the hot knife prevents stretching and seams from raveling. Okay, when I'm cutting this out, the scissors first, I'm going to come over here because when I pull this top this way, I don't want to interfere with my cutting.
Just a reminder again, we've said it in previous tapes, but all of these patterns have got a little triangle on here, which is only a reference point to the next piece that we did. It's all part of the dot system of patterning, which we have covered in previous tapes. But you'll notice that we left these little triangles on here because it's a reference point when we're connecting this pattern to another pattern to make sure that we haven't made a mistake, and if we have, we know how to correct it. I guess this is probably as good a time as any. She's got a little bit of cutting to do here, and I got time to say this. I've had a lot of people ask me about these sandbags, okay? Now, there's a particular way that these sandbags have to be made. Otherwise, they don't work. So I'll go through it real quick. And this is a way they don't cost you very much to make. But they're a very inexpensive item that can be used in your shop all day long to hold these patterns down. Now, here's how you make the sandbags, folks. Go to your scrap acrylic pile, cut out 12 by 18 pieces of scrap acrylic. Fold them in half, sew 2 of the cut edges together. Turn them right side out. Lay them all in a pile, jump in your car, run over to the grocery store, and buy a 1-pound can of Maxwell House coffee, regular grind. Rush back to the shop, open the can, throw the coffee away, and put 1.5 cans of Florida sand in each bag and sew it shut with a strap, and you have the perfect sandbag. And don't ask me to repeat that because I can't do it, Lisa.
Okay, what we've got here is the top. I need to have a straight edge so I can extend the center line onto my fabric. Okay, what I'm doing is going from the center line on that edge to this edge and coming off to the edge of my fabric. Because what I'm going to be doing is taking this panel and bringing it over to me. If you have a center line drawn here, it gives you some place to reference to, and you always get it square on here instead of cocked one way or the other.
Don't forget your 6-inch marks, Beck.
All right.
Remember, you got to put a 6-inch mark out in the curved area of the top because that's how wide the pocket is going to be. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake. So Becky, show them one more time. put your ruler on there and make sure that it's perpendicular to the edge. Because too many people call me 3 months after they've been here and they say, my pockets are getting smaller or larger. So make sure your ruler is perpendicular to the edge.
Okay, before we move this pattern, also make sure that you've done all your marking as far as zipper starts and stops. In this particular case, these are starts. We've got a notch up here on the forward edge for center. I've got a notch on the aft end for center. And you need to mark your pout and sout. And if no one knows what pout and sout means, whoops, spit on it.
See what I mean? It works. You spit on it and wipe it off.
Pout stands for port outside of the pattern, and sout stands for starboard outside of the pattern. So don't forget to mark those. Okay, you take your pattern and pull it up onto the fabric, matching your notch in the center to the chalk line that you drew on the fabric, bringing these edges back to the 6-inch marks that you had before. You can see the marks here in my center that is on. Okay, what you're going to do is cut along this edge and here, and this will create your fitted pocket for the aft end of the top. This is an edge that can be cut with scissors because it will be not seen once everything is sewn and top sewn together. Notch your center. When this gets moved away, you can see that you have the shape of the aft end of the pocket. I always identify all of my pieces so that if they ever get separated somewhere down the line, I know what piece goes where. You also have to have strap cutouts for these pockets. The measurements that we use is coming in from this edge 4 inches, coming over 4 inches from that again. That gives your lateral measurement this way, and coming in 2 inches from here. If you can't eyeball to cut, you can always set something there as a template, draw around it, and cut it. And what you do on one end, you can do on the other end simply by folding it in half, laying it down, and cutting that out. And this is the pocket for the aft end, which in this case we're going to be sewing on a straight flap later, and I'll show you how to cut that out. Okay, we need to have a pocket for the forward end also.
Why don't we cut the other end back and then we'll
Flip it
get that out of
around.
the scrap so it'll be easier for them
Alright.
to see it done.
Set this aside. This is the forward end of our top. The reason why I flipped it around again was because this is the end that's going to have the fitted flap, a fitted pocket on the underneath side, and I've got to be able to pull it up onto the fabric and also have room to do my fitted flap. So I'm going to push this all the way over to the other edge, sandbag it down, making sure that your pattern is upright so that you can read pout and sout. And look at your edges and decide which edges need to have the shear cut or the hot knife cut. Wait a minute. Let's move it down a little bit. I might run out of room over here when we pull it up.
Can't, too late. You'll make it.
Okay.
We've got enough there. See, even we get in little arguments with ourselves. What she brought up here was the fact that the pocket only has to be as long as the top is wide, but the shaped flap, which she's going to cut out over here, has to be a little longer than the top is wide, because when you sew it on, you reverse it and sew it onto the top and then fold it back over. What she's doing is marking her zipper stops. That's what it says on the pattern, ZP. Marking the center marks. One of the biggest mistakes you can do is go out and make all of these patterns, come back to the shop and get yourself in a great big rush and not read the pattern. So when you're brand new at this, stop and think about what you have to do. Read the pattern. One of the other reasons that we use shrink wrap for patterning the products for our boats is this. You, the fabricator that is out on the boat making the pattern, you're all of these things. You're the designer and you're the pattern maker. And those two people can either make or break a company, because a bad design will not be paid for by the customer. And a bad pattern will be done over and over and over until you get sick of working at it. So you have all the time in the world to do a good job of design and a good job of patterning, because all of that time that is spent there that you think is too long can be made up when you get on the cutting and sewing table. Also, when you're out there doing the patterning, you don't have to be a seamstress or a seamster, but you do have to know what their problems are. So if you want something done in a certain way when you're patterning a project, write a note on this, because you can't hurt anything. You can write instructions on it, because I guarantee you, you can't remember all these details when you get back to the shop. So that's another reason for using this for patterning.
Okay, what I'm going to do is come in once again, perpendicular to the edge, mark my 6 inches, because this will be my pocket once again. You've got your center line drawn that you extended from before. Move this back. Pull this up onto the fabric, notch on the chalk line these edges up until they meet your 6-inch marks. This gets cut out just like we did the other one.
When you are cutting this pocket out, make sure that you either do as we just did, which is hold it or sandbag it, because it has a tendency to want to creep on you. And if it creeps away, then you have a pocket that doesn't fit the top. And the difference of whether you have a top that sags down in front or behind the frame is dependent on how you make this pocket.
Pull this away, you can see the fitted pocket that we had just like on the other side. Forward. I'm identifying the pocket so that I know if this was the forward or the aft end of the top. Okay, on a fitted flap, which we told you before, you have 2 kinds of flaps, a fitted flap and a straight flap. On a fitted flap, once you have moved the body of your top up and created the pocket, the next step is to measure 3 inches away from this cut edge and mark it.
Now she's marking this, and I know exactly what your people are going to do when you get home. You're going to say, well, I'm not going to take all that time, and I'm going to take this pocket and lay it up on here, and I'm going to copy it for 3 inches. I guarantee it ain't going to work. So make sure that you mark them as individual items, because if you keep using this top or this pocket as the pattern for this curved area, the radius gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and this flap will not be able to fit on the top. Go ahead, Beck.
Okay, the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut on the hash marks that you made, which is the 3 inches away from the edge. What you're going to do is take this, and it's going to get set up onto this part here. When we get to the sewing table, we're going to be sewing the inside curve, turning it and edge stitching it, and this will be creating your fitted pocket, or your fitted flap.
And another little point here, what we found is we do not cut this piece to match this shape, because it takes too much time to do it, plus when you sew it, you probably will not hold it down exactly tight. So if you leave it this way and you sew up this inside radius when you're sewing it together, then when you turn it over and top sew it, you can trim it and it'll fit exactly. Doesn't take any more time later, and it makes it fit perfect.
What I'm doing is the same thing I did on the other end for the pocket. I came in 4 inches from the edge, 4 inches away again, 2 inches deep, cut out the scoop, fold it in half, and you copy the same thing on the other side. Okay, we need a middle pocket, middle pocket for the 2 pieces to go together. We need a straight flap, and we need side reinforcing pieces. Scrap material. Okay, the other edge, in order to get a measurement, to do that straight flap, this is the piece that we had. If you measure the center and double it, in this case it'd be 40, and add a couple inches, you'll wind up with enough to cut your flap. That piece will be, say, 42 inches by 5 inches.
Okay, Beck, let's show them the quick and dirty way to get all these parts real quick. Here's what we need, people. We need a 5-inch piece for a flap, and we need 2 facings for each side of the top, okay? They're each cut 2.5 inches by a straight length. If you were to look at this top, you'll know that this dimension is plenty long to go down each side of the top. So here's the quick and easy way to come up with a 5, a 2.5, and a 2.5. Let's do it the carpenter way, right here on the corner of the table, Beck.
Do the 5.
Just do your 5 first. Now doing a 2.5. What she's doing here, she's got one finger up against the table and the other one holding that pencil right on the end of the ruler and using it as a scribe down the side of the table, which she's done in the amount of time that it would have taken you to find a straight edge to do this. She's got all 3 pieces marked out so that she can go ahead and cut them out. And these are the little things that make the difference of whether you get the top done in a decent amount of time so that you can make money. We don't shortcut our quality, but we shortcut our movements, and we make our movements count when we're sewing up our product, because that's how you make money. You'll notice that basically she's cutting this. Why? Again, she doesn't want to stretch the material, because it is a woven material. It has a tendency to stretch if you start slicing it a lot. You want to lay the whole project up and show them
Well,
every
I've got
part?
to do a middle boot yet.
Middle
or middle
pocket. Okay, we got enough here? No.
Should.
Yes, we
Right
do.
along here.
Right.
Okay, if we use this piece here that's left over,
Let's show them another way of making the pocket, Beck, where we start out with a 6-inch rectangle and show them
Okay.
how to slide it under and get the
All
cut
right.
edge. Okay? This is just another way of making the center pocket for, it doesn't matter whether it's a convertible top or a Bimini top. If you determine what the length of the pocket has to be, in this case I think she's going for 17 inches, am I right?
right?
How about that? She's going for 17 inches long, and she's going to make a rectangle that's 6 inches wide by 17 inches long. And normally she wouldn't have old Dad standing here to hold this down for her. She'd have to use a clamp, but because it's hot and I feel sorry for her, I'm helping her today. But this is just another way that I want you to learn how to cut a pocket that fits the shape of the top. Remember, I said earlier, we do not put any pocket on any top or any product that is not cut to the shape of the frame that it's going to sit on. What she's done here is cut this rectangle that's 6 by 17 inches. The 17 was an arbitrary figure. She folded it in half, put her center notch on it, and now she's going to slide the top up onto it. This is the curved edge of the top. And if you notice, it's not very small, but there is a difference right here. And we want this pocket to fit that frame, so she's going to use the top as the pattern to cut the shape of this pocket.
Slide this away, you can see your fitted or shaped side here, which corresponds with this, and the straight side here.
Your next question should be, why do we have one side straight and one side shaped, right? This has to be shaped because it's sitting on the frame. The reason we do this side straight, it doesn't matter that it's a straight seam. It's easier to sew down. Plus, when we show you how to put in zippered pockets, it's easier to put the zipper in the pocket. And we'll show you the zippered pockets later.
Okay,
Now, shall we show them all the parts, or
let's
you
lay it
got
up.
something else you want to cut?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay. That's the blunt end. This is the pointy end.
You notice we get a little weird at the end of the day. We get blunt end and the pointy end on the boat instead of the bow and the stern. We don't have room on the table. Can we lay this over there as being the shaped flap, the two parts to it, so that everybody can see all of the parts? And one of these, this one, becomes the straight flap for that end, and this becomes the facing for down the side of the top. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all there is to cutting out a Bimini top. Now don't go away because we got to cut out some more curtains, but this is what it takes to cut out a Bimini top. It doesn't matter whether it's a 3-frame, 4-frame, or 5-frame top.
Okay, we've got enclosure curtains to cut, which
Okay.
will be the, in this case, we're going to cut out 2 curtains instead of 4 because it's repetitious of each other, but they're all going to be the same. We're going to cut out, I believe it is the forward panel and a side curtain, but they all are going to be done the same way. Lay your patterns down once again so that everything is up and facing you. So you can read your pout and your sout, sandbag them in place, and all these cuts get cut with scissors because these will all be bound edges.
Can we wrap this down, Pat?
The only other thing that we'll need to cut for these pieces here will be fabric pieces that will be laid along the snap edges, such as this edge here. This is a forward panel, and along the bottom edge over there, because that is the snap edge of the side curtains. All the marks will be transferred from these patterns onto the clear vinyl. The snaps and zipper starts and stops being on the back edge of the curtains so that they don't have to be erased later. Mark your centers.
You all notice what they're doing. They're identifying the curtains on the outside with the China marker, and they're identifying the zipper starts and stops on the inside with a China marker so that they can get the marks off when they have the facings on. This is basically all there is to cutting out the curtains. Now there's some other facings and so on, but when we get into the sewing procedure, we'll show you how to put the facings on because they're already pre-made. So we have cut out the forward curtain and one side curtain, and the other 2 are repetition. So that concludes cutting out all of the products to make a Bimini top with a full enclosure. And we thank you very much.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, the people from Glen Raven Mills Incorporated, who manufacture Sunbrella, Unitex Incorporated, a nationwide distributor, and WL Gore & Associates, using creative technologies worldwide in the making of Gore-Tex sewing thread. Join us again when we show you how to increase your profits and save time and effort with the Marine Canvas Training Institute programs.
Sherry, you know you've done a fantastic job, but you know what?
What?
I'm sick of working. Let's go fishing.
Okay, Don, let's fish.